Hello, my friends, and welcome to day 2 of my daily creative challenge in Adobe Illustrator. So, my name is Tyler Pate, and I'll be your host throughout the whole week. And each day we'll be exploring new tools, features in Adobe Illustrator. I'll be walking you through how to use them, how to apply them to different features, and my best practice of, going forward with vector stuff, which is always fun. So yesterday, if you didn't catch us, we explored creating custom Halloween inspired wallpapers for your phone. So background patterns for pretty much anything, but we focused on our phones and we created some really fun Illustrator vectors using the Pathfinder tool and a couple of the shape builder tools too. So today is very interesting because we're going to keep that theme of all fall festive stuff, but we're going to be creating custom repeatable patterns. So we're talking about seamless patterns. So we could scale them up, we can make them any shape, rectangle, circle. We can make these patterns fit exactly how we want them to fit. And it's really fun because we're going to apply them then to a fun little tote bag, just to give you an idea of how you could use these patterns. But let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so if you've already saw the file that we've provided, this is what you should be able to see. We are going to create this fall pattern. And this pattern is honestly pretty easy and fast to make with Adobe Illustrator, but we're going to spend some time making each of these icons pretty quickly, and then I'm going to show you how we can apply them to fun little things. Like for this example, we're going to do a tote bag, but you can make a t-shirt, you can make socks, you can make even business cards. You could do anything with a seamless pattern. It's just endless, but it's so fun. And the best part about it, it becomes a swatch. So it'll actually be in your swatch library up here. And just to show you exactly what I mean, here's the pre-made one that I did earlier. No matter what shape I build, no matter how far I scale it, that pattern is repeatable seamlessly, endlessly, and it's incredible. And it's so much fun to just honestly just create all sorts of fun little things using that pattern. So let's go ahead and dive into how we are going to create this. Again, my pattern is made up of a couple different illustrations, and this is probably the most important step for diving into this pattern making process. You got to create a couple different variations of icons so you can sort of build that pattern so you can make it seamless so you don't notice the repeatable elements as much. So the more shapes, the more icons or illustrations that you make, the better it's going to look at the end. So let's go ahead and make a couple of these. Again, this is where we're going to end up. So we're going to start with this little bit of pumpkin pie. So to make this, I used the rectangle tool. Just create a really fast shape like this. I'm going to then use the transformation tool. Transformation tool is a really fun one. Use it all the time. That's a simple click of E on the keyboard and you should get your prompt right here. I'm going to skew this just a little bit like that to get a little perspective to our pie. Let's go ahead and make it a little more shallow. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to just drag down a duplicated version underneath to be our pie crust. Just like that. And then we need to create the other side. So I'm just gonna, again, any pattern will work. As long as you're in vector, it's gonna be, really seamless and easier down the road if you stick to vector, because you're never gonna have any sort of scaling problems. So your illustration could be anything. As long as we're dealing with vector, it's gonna be perfect at the end, because we're gonna make a seamless pattern with it. And I'm just using a couple different tools, like the transformation tool, the shape builder tool. Some of the tools we actually went over yesterday. So this is going to show you how those tools come in handy over and over. I'm going to use the pen tool real quick. And going to create the top of our pie. That looks about right. And then we need to make the little crust piece that's on top there. I'm going to do that by using the ellipse tool, and I'm going to use the transformation tool again to distort it to fit the right angle that we need. And what I'm doing to get my angles correct, you notice that no matter what circle or ellipse shape you make, you typically get a point on both ends. That's the left, right, top, bottom of that circle. And I typically transform it using the transformation tool until I get those points on this horizontal line here, or diagonal line. I think that's fine. Send it back. Something like that. Starting to look right. And then I'm gonna actually just duplicate that and drag it to the other side so that we can then select both of them. And then we're going to go ahead and use what I like to call the blend tool. And we're gonna use the blend tool to fill in those gaps. So it's just repeating those two shapes in between. Give us a little more control over what we're dealing with here. Something like that. Honestly, I think we might need to make this pie a little bit wider. And since we used the blend tool, we should be able to just move it. And it should still fill in those gaps, just like that. Trying to figure out, I think that might be too many. I'll just go with the lesser. Okay. I'm gonna use the expand. Let's do that one more time. Okay, now we got our little shape. I'll drag that back to, so we're kind of creating a little more perspective with this piece of pie here. So each angle lines up with the one next to it. Okay. All right. And I'm really just doing this quick because, again, the fun part's going to be getting to the pattern. The pattern is exactly why we're here, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun when we start seeing these awesome little icons and illustrations being used. So whenever you're making your custom pattern, definitely spend more time creating these icons. Get the icon and the style down first, because at the end of the day, you don't want to have to double back once you've made your pattern to make edits to your illustrations. So let's get our illustrations looking good. We'll make the process a lot easier. I'm just creating a little more depth to our pie crust here. Pretty simple. Just trying to make sure that we don't have anything that's overlapping in the wrong area. Okay. All right, that's essentially the same pie. I think we did less little curves on the pie crust, but I think we got it. And I think honestly I might delete these extra points that exist. That's from when we were making our pie crust. Kind of like guides, but they're just random points. Okay, so we got this here. I said I wanted to bring this up a little bit. Get a little bit shorter of a piece of pie. Okay. That is one icon down. Almost there. Almost there. All right, let's jump into our pumpkin. Pumpkin's super easy. Such a fun little graphic to make. Did this with the ellipse tool by simply starting with the center. I'll drag and duplicate, and you can hold Option and Shift while you're dragging shapes to just move them over, and it'll duplicate them for you. Just like that. And I'm gonna group these two on the left and right And I'm going to select the middle one, bring it to front, select all of them, and let's use our align tool to make sure that everything is nice and aligned. And then we're going to, let's see, maybe we could adjust this a little bit. Get a little bit stubbier. Okay. Now let's get these little rounded pieces here in the back. Gives it a little more perspective. Feels a bit more 3D, which is always nice visually, and that should be good. I'm just sort of distorting it, trying to get my shapes to align and feel like we got kind of a rounded pumpkin there. And we're gonna make our stump here, our stem. Just gonna use the pen tool, just making a quick shape. Something like that should be good to go. Bring this in front of it, and there you go. Now we got our pumpkin. And we're gonna go ahead and group this too. So make sure each icon that you make or illustration that you make, go ahead and group those individually so that we don't have anything getting pulled apart, or sometimes you drag things around and you'll forget certain pieces that you leave behind. Okay, so group that. Now let's make our leaf, super easy. I'll use a ellipse tool, make a circle, and I'll use my angle tool to just get rid of those angles, and there we go. This is just a stroke. Perfect. All right, that's one leaf down. And then we had these little guys. Little stars, so you could make these quite easily if you go to our distort and transform, pucker and bloat. We actually performed this yesterday, so if you want to figure out a little bit more behind the scenes of how this works, we used it in some illustrations. So very quick and easy to do. And I also made a different kind of little star. I'm just duplicating a bunch of these shapes and turning them over just like that. All right, moving on. Now we're to the acorn. Let's see how we can make this acorn. I'll start with a circle, and I'm actually going to only focus on one side of the circle. And I'll tell you why here in a second. I'm just gonna focus on this, changing the angles a little bit here. I'm gonna delete this other side because we're gonna mirror this to make a different shape. So if we were to think about this a little bit, yeah, I think I'm gonna delete this. Continue up here till we get to there. And then sort of build this out a little bit more with the pen tool. Something like that, I think looks fine. I think that's fine for the time we have. Okay. Duplicate that over while holding Option and Shift so it's completely over to the left and it's not out of line. It's not too much higher or lower than the one we just created. I'm going to go to Transform, Reflect, make sure we're on vertical axis. Okay, drag it back towards where we were. And then I'm going to select both of those shapes, and we're going to go to our Pathfinder, Unite. Now we got a single shape. I'm just going to sort of distort it a little bit. Now we got to make the top acorn. What are those called? Acorn caps? I don't know. And just like this, we will move this around a little bit until we get what should look more like an acorn. I'll round these corners a little bit. Okay, yeah, that's looking close. And then we'll take our pen tool. Let's create the little stem here. Perfect. I think it's close enough. Might actually bring these back out. Shrink it, move it up. Okay, and let's not forget to group our new shape. We have an acorn. Still not completely happy with it. I think maybe that'll do it. There we go. All right. You could spend more time on your icons. Again, that's definitely an important piece, but what we're here for is to make that custom pattern. So let's go ahead and create some floral elements here. Use the stroke. Looks good. Let's create a couple little pieces that stem off from it. Nice. And then we got these little berries that go on it. We'll just use the ellipse tool, create one shape, and we're going to duplicate that shape over and over. What are we missing? We're missing a leaf. Let's create this leaf. Very simple. Use the pen tool. And I'm just going to move these handles around until we get a nice little curve. Seems to make sense there. All right, perfect. Send it to back. Maybe move it more right there. Might actually put another leaf on this. Transform it, reflect. There we go. There we go. All right, let's group these. And then now we have our final leaf, which I created with the pen tool. And I'm just using the handles on each of these points and adjusting it ever so slightly until I get to a good point where I'm going to then duplicate it, transform, reflect, vertical axis, and then bring it back to the other one where I'm going to unite with the transformation tool. Sometimes if the points aren't completely touching, the transformation tool won't know to merge them. So sometimes helps to just make a new point, make sure they're overlapping, and unite. Now we got one single shape here. I'll move these in just a little bit. And what did we do? We did this stroke to create like some veins on the leaf here. This is just using the stroke tool, and I think we needed to create a stem. Again, just using the pen tool here. And I'm gonna merge those two shapes. Okay. All right, we got our leaf. Almost done. Perfect. Group these. All right, we just created all of our icons. Now it's time for the fun part. I typically start with a square artboard. You really don't need an artboard to make the pattern, but it just helps organizing everything. So I'm gonna start in the center of my artboard and start arranging my elements here so they feel a bit more staged and organic in some ways. So I'm gonna start turning a few, put my star there. And this is where the artistic side comes in, and you just kind of have to work with your balance of shapes, and we're gonna start to duplicate the ones that we like. And let's even change the color of some of these. So let's make a green leaf. Make sure that everything is in a different angle from the other repeated one. So again, it feels like they're all different shapes. That, and then I'm going to start repeating some of the bigger shapes here. Bring some acorns around here. Let's make another leaf. We can add this one, flip it. And I like to work from the center out, so I'm starting to add different little elements, repeated pieces throughout. And let's try to keep the spacing between each of the shapes fairly consistent, but very close. We don't want them overlapping, at least for this pattern, but I want them to feel very snug and just at home. So that's gonna help us give that illusion of a seamless pattern. You're not gonna be able to tell where it starts or where it stops. It's gonna be really hard to figure out that repeatable element. Just like this. I am going to keep adding and moving, spinning, duplicating, and I'm holding Option while I'm clicking and dragging all these. So it's like a fast, super simple way to repeat some shapes. Spin it around. Let's make some more pumpkin pie. Perfect. All right. I think that's good for right now. So what we're gonna do, once we just got the center of that square or that artboard filled, we're gonna select everything, go up to Object, and let's go on down to, you guessed it, Pattern, and click Make. All right, so this is just telling us that we are creating a new pattern, swatch, which is like a color swatch, and that's gonna be added into your swatch panel. So that's gonna be exactly what we're using later. So click OK. Now you see that what's going on, the program is duplicating outside of our parameter. Our parameter is this blue line. So everything we have in this blue line is what we can actually move. I can't touch or move anything outside of that blue line because that's the program generating the pattern itself. So let's start filling in within the blue line. And that's filling in these areas because we want to make that blue square very close and tight where we can get that seamless pattern going. Start duplicating. We can make this process a bit quicker. Doing this. And as I'm starting to fill in these areas, you'll notice that the pattern is starting to really come together. Change some of the colors that maybe are too close to the color of the shape next to it. And I'm still just, again, holding Option, dragging, duplicating. Actually don't need the pumpkin. I think the pumpkin's too big for the space that we have. Acorn would be perfect over here. Add some stars. Might actually even add some little circles. Just to fill in that space a bit more. Let's not forget to duplicate these other types of stars. And we still got a couple blank spots in the corners here. Let's figure out what shape would be best over there. Maybe this one. Which means we need to move some stuff around so that we can have some space for it. Might even shrink it a little bit. There we go. What else? Maybe another piece of pie? Maybe right here? Nah. Maybe this green leaf. Some stars. Some more circles. And we're just filling up that square there. And it's starting to become a little bit of a seamless pattern, which is exactly what we want. And it's gonna look great once we finish too. So what else? Let's do another leaf. And this just takes a little finessing. Again, what really makes a great pattern is filling in the areas, making sure that everything and placement looks good. And honestly, it's just those icons and illustrations that you start adding. Okay, perfect. So we're ready. We are ready to finalize this. So the next step we're gonna do, we're gonna go up top here and you're gonna see save a copy, done, or cancel. We're gonna click done. Perfect. So we have just finished our pattern. So where is our pattern now? This is just our original icons that we made. This is where our pattern went. Our pattern is over here in our swatch panel. You click that, boom. Now you have a seamless pattern that you could add to anything like a tote bag. You could create t-shirts. You could create stickers, anything. All of these patterns are seamless and repeatable. So I hope you're able to have some fun next time when you're making some custom patterns. Remember, it's really easy to do. Spend some time on those icons and just have fun. It's fall. I want to see what kind of tote bags or shirts you can make. My name's Tyler, and that was today's Daily Challenge. See you tomorrow.